The morning sun cast long shadows across the university library as Cassandra Vale hunched over another stack of rejection letters. Her dark hair fell in waves around her face, hiding the exhaustion that had become her constant companion. 3 months of grant applications, all resulting in polite but firm denials. Her father's treatment couldn't wait much longer. "Excuse me, are you Cassandra Vale?" A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to find a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit standing beside her table. His steel-gray eyes held an intensity that made her suddenly aware of her worn cardigan and faded jeans. Everything about him screamed wealth and power, from his perfectly styled dark hair to the expensive watch glinting on his wrist. "Yes, I am. And you are." "Marcus Sterling. I have a proposition that might interest you." He pulled out the chair. Across from her, without waiting for permission. "I understand you're in need of funding for your father's treatment." Cassandra's spine stiffened. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about." "Dr. James Vale. Experimental immunotherapy at Cedar-Sinai. Roughly $300,000 needed within the next 6 months. Marcus's tone was matter of fact, as if discussing the weather. "Your grant applications have been unsuccessful, and your teaching salary barely covers basic expenses." "How do you know all this?" Cassandra whispered, her hands trembling slightly. "I make it my business to know things." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her with those penetrating eyes. "I have a solution that could benefit us both." Cassandra wanted to walk away, but the weight of her father's medical bills kept her rooted to her seat. "What kind of solution?" "Marriage. Contract marriage, to be precise." Marcus pulled out a leather portfolio and set it on the table between them. "My grandfather's will contains a rather archaic clause. To inherit his estate, I must be married before my 35th birthday. It gives me exactly 8 months. You want to marry?" "Me for money?" Cassandra's voice rose slightly, earning glances from nearby students. "I want to marry you for my money, and in return, you'll receive enough to cover your father's treatment, plus a substantial sum for yourself." Marcus opened the portfolio, revealing official-looking documents. "The arrangement would last 1 year, during which time you would accompany me to social functions and maintain the appearance of a loving wife. After 12 months, we divorce amicably, and you walk away financially secure." Cassandra stared at the papers, her mind racing. "Why me? Surely there are women in your social circle who would be more suitable." "Precisely because you're not in my social circle. You have no hidden agendas, no social climbing ambitions. You're intelligent, educated, and desperate enough to agree to my terms." Marcus's honesty was brutal, but refreshing. "Most importantly, you need the money more than you need love." The words stung, but Cassandra couldn't deny their truth. Love was a luxury she couldn't afford while her father was dying. What exactly would be expected of me? Public appearances at charity galas, business dinners, family gatherings? You would live in my penthouse, maintain separate quarters, and learn enough about my business to engage in basic conversation. Marcus slid a document across the table. "Everything is outlined here, including the financial compensation." Cassandra's eyes widened at the figure written in bold print. It was more money than she'd see in 5 years of teaching. This is ... substantial. I don't do anything by halves. "Ms. Vale." Marcus watched her carefully. "You would receive 25% upon signing, another 25% after 6 months, and the remainder upon successful completion of the contract. And if I refuse, then you walk away, and we never speak again. But your father's treatment window is closing, and we both know you don't have many options left." Cassandra closed her eyes, thinking of her father's gentle smile and the way he'd tried to hide his pain during her last visit. When she opened them, Marcus was still watching her with that unreadable expression. "I need time to think about this." "Course, but not too much time." Marcus stood and straightened his tie. "I'll need an answer by tomorrow evening. If you agree, we can begin the legal proceedings immediately." We pulled out a business card and placed it beside the contract. "Personal number is on the back. Call when you've decided." Cassandra watched him walk away, his confident stride carrying him through the library like he owned it. She looked down at the contract, then at the stack of rejection letters beside it. Her father's smiling face stared back at her from the photo on her phone. Sometimes survival meant making impossible choices. Sometimes impossible choices led to unexpected destinations. She picked up the contract and began to read. 3 days later, Cassandra stood in the marble foyer of Marcus Sterling's penthouse, her single suitcase looking pathetically small beside the sweeping staircase. The space was all clean lines and expensive artwork, intimidating in its perfection. She'd signed the contract that morning, her hand trembling only slightly as she wrote her name. Welcome to your new home. Marcus appeared at the top of the stairs, having traded his business suit for dark jeans and a cashmere sweater. Somehow, the casual clothes made him more approachable, though no less imposing. It's not impressive. Cassandra turned slowly, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Lena will be here shortly to help you prepare for tonight's event. Marcus descended the stairs with fluid grace. She's my business partner and will serve as your guide to high society expectations. Tonight, the Metropolitan Museum's annual gala. Consider it your debut as my wife-to-be. Marcus's smile held no warmth. We announced our engagement in this morning's society pages. Cassandra's stomach dropped. You didn't tell me about it. It's all part of the arrangement. We need to establish our relationship publicly before the wedding next month. Marcus gestured toward the living area. Your quarters are upstairs, second door on the right. Alina will help you select appropriate attire. As if summoned by her name, Alina Rossetti swept through the front door without knocking. She was stunning in that effortless way that suggested excellent breeding and expensive maintenance. Her auburn hair was styled in a perfect chignon, and her designer dress probably cost more than Cassandra's monthly salary. Hey, so you're the mysterious fiancé? Elena's smile was polite but assessing. I'm Alina Rossetti, Marcus's business partner, and apparently your fairy godmother for the evening. Cassandra Vale, she offered her hand, which Alina shook with surprising firmness. We have work to do. Alina surveyed Cassandra's appearance with a critical eye. The gala starts in 4 hours, and you need to look like you belong on Marcus's arm. The next 3 hours passed in a whirlwind of hair, makeup, and clothing consultations. Alina had brought an entire wardrobe of evening gowns, each more expensive than Cassandra's car. They finally settled on a midnight blue silk dress that hugged her curves without being ostentatious. Remember, Alina said as she fastened a diamond necklace around Cassandra's neck, you're madly in love with Marcus? You met at a gallery opening 6 months ago, and he swept you off your feet with his knowledge of ancient civilizations. Ancient civilizations? Cassandra looked surprised. Marcus has degrees in archaeology and art history. Didn't he tell you? Lena's eyes narrowed. What exactly did he tell you about himself? Not much. It's just that he needed a wife for his inheritance. Alina exchanged a look with Marcus, who had just entered the room wearing a perfectly fitted tuxedo. Perhaps you two should spend some time getting to know each other. You can't fake chemistry if you don't have any foundation. We'll manage. Marcus's tone was dismissive, but Cassandra caught something else in his expression when he looked at her. Surprise, maybe? Or appreciation? You look... Marcus paused, searching for words. Beautiful. Cassandra felt heat rise in her cheeks. Thank you. The gala was held in the museum's grand hall, surrounded by priceless artifacts and attended by the city's elite. Cassandra had never been in a room with so many diamonds, so much designer clothing, so much casual wealth. She clung to Marcus's arm, trying to ignore the curious stares and whispered conversations. Relax, Marcus murmured in her ear as they approached a group of potential investors. You're an accomplished archaeologist, not a fraud. These people should be impressed by your intellect, not intimidated by your bank account. His unexpected encouragement helped her shoulders relax slightly. As they mingled, Cassandra found herself genuinely engaged in conversations about art. In history, Marcus watched her with growing interest as she passionately discussed a Mesopotamian exhibit with a museum curator. You know your stuff, he commented as they moved away from the group. It's what I do, or what I did before, ... Cassandra gestured vaguely. Before you needed to save your father's life. Marcus's voice was gentler than she'd heard it before. Tell me about your research. They found themselves in a quiet corner of the gallery, surrounded by ancient Greek pottery. Cassandra's face lit up as she described her work on trade routes in the ancient world. her hands moving expressively as she spoke. Marcus listened intently, occasionally asking questions that demonstrated his own considerable knowledge. "You're not what I expected," Cassandra said suddenly. "What did you expect? A cold businessman who collected wives like he collected art?" Cassandra looked around at the priceless artifacts surrounding them. "But you actually understand this world, don't you? The ancient civilizations, the culture, the significance of these pieces." Marcus's expression grew distant. "I studied archaeology before I inherited the family business. It was my first love before I learned that love was a luxury I couldn't afford." Before Cassandra could respond, Alina appeared at their side. "Time for the group photo. All the major donors are gathering near the Egyptian wing." With the other couples, Marcus's hand rested possessively on Cassandra's waist. She found herself leaning into his warmth, surprised by how natural it felt. When the photographer asked them to look at each other instead of the camera, their eyes met and held. For a moment, the crowded room faded away. Cassandra saw something vulnerable in Marcus's steel-gray eyes, something that made her heart skip. Unexpectedly, his hand tightened on her waist, and she wondered if he felt it too, this strange pull between them that had nothing to do with contracts or money. "Beautiful couple," the photographer commented, snapping another shot. Neither of them looked away. The prestigious Whitmore auction house buzzed with anticipation as collectors and dealers gathered for the evening's featured event. The sale of artifacts from a recently discovered Mayan temple. Cassandra sat beside Marcus in the front row, acutely aware of the whispers and stares from other attendees. "There's Vincent Blackwood," Marcus murmured, nodding toward a silver-haired man across the room, "my primary competitor in the antiquities market. He's been circling like a vulture since news of our engagement broke." Cassandra studied the man's predatory smile. "He doesn't look friendly. Vincent doesn't believe in friendly. He believes in winning at any cost." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Stay close to me tonight?" The auction began with smaller pieces, building toward the evening's centerpiece, a jade ceremonial mask believed to have belonged to a Mayan high priest. Cassandra watched the bidding with professional interest, mentally cataloging each piece and its probable provenance. "Lot 47, the auctioneer announced. A limestone relief depicting the Mayan creation myth, circa 600 AD. Cassandra leaned forward, her breath catching. The piece was magnificent, its intricate carvings telling the story of the hero twins' journey through the underworld. But something about the weathering patterns bothered her. "Marcus," she whispered urgently, "something's wrong with that piece." "What do you mean? The limestone shows signs of artificial aging?" "Look at the base. Those tool marks are too fresh, and the patina is uneven." Cassandra's voice grew more confident as she studied the relief. "It's a forgery, and a good one, but still a fake." Marcus stared at her, then at the piece. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. I've studied Mayan artifacts for 6 years. That piece was made within the last decade, not 1,500 years ago." Before Marcus could respond, Vincent Blackwood appeared at their row. "Sterling, my boy? Enjoying the auction with your lovely ... companion?" Fiancé Marcus corrected coldly. "Cassandra Vale." "Ah, yes. The mysterious Ms. Vale. No one seems to know much about your background, my dear. How did you manage to capture our Marcus's notoriously cold heart?" Cassandra felt Marcus tense beside her, but she kept her voice steady. "We met through mutual interests in ancient civilizations. Marcus was researching trade routes in pre-Columbian America." "How convenient. And what's your opinion of tonight's offerings? Surely someone with your ... expertise has thoughts on the quality." It was a trap, Cassandra realized. Vincent suspected something about their relationship and was testing her. Knowledge. She could give a safe, generic answer, or she could trust her instincts. "The limestone relief is a forgery," she said clearly, her voice carrying in the suddenly quiet room. "The tool marks are inconsistent with period techniques, and the aging is artificial. Whoever created it was skilled, but they made subtle errors that reveal its true age." A male murmur rippled through the crowd. The auctioneer paused, looking uncertain. Vincent's eyes narrowed dangerously. "It's quite an accusation, Ms. Vale, do you have credentials to support such a claim? I have a doctorate in Mesoamerican archaeology from Columbia University, 6 years of field research in Guatemala and Mexico, and I've published 12 papers on Mayan iconography. Cassandra stood, moving closer to the display. But more importantly, I have eyes and the training to use them. She began pointing out specific details, the way the limestone had been artificially weathered, the inconsistencies in the carving depth, the modern tool marks disguised as ancient ware. Her voice grew stronger and more passionate as she spoke, her expertise evident in every word. The room fell silent as she finished. The auctioneer consulted hurriedly with the auction house's experts, and within minutes, they confirmed her assessment. The piece was withdrawn from the sale amid embarrassed apologies and promises of investigation. Well, Vincent said, his smile sharp with malice, how fortunate that Marcus has found himself such a knowledgeable wife. One might wonder what other arrangements were made to secure such expertise. Careful, Blackwood. Marcus stood, his voice deadly quiet. You're speaking about my fiancé, of course. My apologies for any ... implication. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm sure your relationship is perfectly genuine. How romantic to find love and professional advantage in the same package. As Vincent walked away, Cassandra felt the weight of 100 stares. She'd saved the auction house from embarrassment, but she'd also drawn unwanted attention to herself and Marcus. We should go, Marcus said quietly, placing his hand on her back. They left the auction house in tense silence, the night air cool against Cassandra's flushed cheeks. In the car, Marcus finally spoke. That was incredible, what you did in there. I've never seen anyone dismantle a forgery so completely. I'm sorry if I caused problems with your business rival. Problems? Marcus turned to face her, his eyes bright with something she couldn't identify. Cassandra, you were magnificent. You stood up to Vincent Blackwood and made him look like a fool in front of the entire antiquities community. I just did what any qualified archaeologist would do, Marcus said softly. You did what a passionate, brilliant woman would do. You defended the truth, even when it was dangerous. They'd reached the penthouse, but neither moved to get out of the car. The space between them felt charged with possibility. I'm not who you think I am, Cassandra whispered. You're exactly who I think you are. You're brilliant, passionate, and brave. Marcus reached out to touch her face, his fingers gentle against her cheek. You're also beautiful, and I'm finding it increasingly difficult to remember that this is supposed to be just business. Cassandra's heart hammered against her ribs. Marcus, ... I know. I know this complicates everything. His thumb traced her lower lip. But I can't stop thinking about you. It's about the way you looked tonight when you were talking about those artifacts. About how proud I felt to have you beside me. This isn't part of the contract, Cassandra breathed. No, it's not. Marcus leaned closer, his voice rough. But I'm past caring about contracts right now. When he kissed her, it was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as she responded. Cassandra's hands fisted in his jacket, pulling him closer. Losing herself in the warmth of his mouth and the way he whispered her name like a prayer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard.
Guess this changes everything, Cassandra.
Said yes, Marcus agreed, his forehead resting against hers. It does. The call came at 3 a.m. Cassandra jerked awake in her elegant guest room, her heart racing as she fumbled for her phone. Her father's doctor's voice was calm but serious. Doctor. James Vale had taken a turn for the worse and needed immediate surgery. Cassandra was dressed and grabbing her keys when Marcus appeared in the hallway, wearing only pajama pants and a concerned expression. What's wrong, my father? I need to get to the hospital. Her voice broke slightly on the last word. I'll drive you. Marcus was already moving toward his room. Give me 2 minutes. You don't have to, Cassandra. Marcus stopped. Turning to face her, let me help you.
God?
The hospital corridors were sterile and bright, filled with the antiseptic smell that Cassandra had learned to associate with her father's illness. Marcus sat beside her in the surgical waiting room, his presence steady and reassuring, even in silence. Tell me about him, Marcus said quietly. Your father. Chandra smiled despite her worry. He's a literature professor at the community college. Taught me to love stories, to see the romance in ancient civilizations and lost worlds. She twisted, her hands in her lap. He's the strongest person I know. But this disease, ... We raised an incredible daughter. That takes strength. I'm not incredible. I'm just desperate. Cassandra's voice was barely above a whisper. I married you for money, Marcus. What does that make me? Human. Marcus turned to face her fully. You did what you had to do to save someone you love. There's no shame in that. Dr. Reynolds appeared before Cassandra could respond. His scrubs wrinkled and his expression cautiously optimistic. The surgery went well. We were able to remove the affected tissue, and the new treatment, protocol, is showing promising results. Cassandra sagged with relief, and Marcus's arm came around her shoulders automatically. Thank you, doctor. When can I see him? He's in recovery now. Give us an hour, then you can visit briefly. As the doctor left, Cassandra found herself crying. Not the desperate tears of fear, but the cleansing tears of relief. Marcus held her without speaking, his hand stroking her hair gently. I'm sorry, she said finally, pulling away. I'm not usually so emotional. You don't have to apologize for caring about your father. Marcus's voice was soft. It's one of the things I admire most about you. They spent the next week falling into a routine. Cassandra would visit her father each morning, then return to the penthouse, where Marcus would be waiting with coffee and questions about her father's progress. Their conversations grew longer and more personal, moving beyond their contractual obligations into something deeper. I have to go to Chicago next week, Marcus said one evening, as they shared dinner on the terrace. There's a private collection being sold, and I want to authenticate some pieces before the public auction. It sounds exciting. Cassandra tried to keep the disappointment from her voice. Come with me. Marcus set down his wine glass. I could use your expertise, and I'd like your company. Is that part of the contract? No, Marcus met her eyes directly. This is me asking you to come because I want you there, not as my contracted wife, but as Cassandra. The Chicago trip changed everything. They flew in Marcus's private jet, working side by side to research the collection they'd be examining. Cassandra watched Marcus in his element, saw the passion he'd hidden beneath his business-like exterior. This is what you really love, isn't it? It, she said, as they studied photographs of Mesopotamian tablets. Not the corporate empire, but this. The history, the stories these artifacts tell. My grandfather built Sterling Enterprises. My father expanded it. But yes, this is what makes me feel alive. Marcus looked up from the tablet he was examining. What about you? What would you do if money weren't an issue? Lead expeditions. Discover new sites. Piece together the lives of people who lived thousands of years ago. Cassandra's eyes grew distant. There's a site in Guatemala I've been trying to get funding to excavate for 3 years. Preliminary surveys suggested. Could be a major ceremonial center. Why don't you do it? Because dreams don't pay for cancer treatment. Cassandra's voice was matter-of-fact. But Marcus caught the underlying sadness. Their hotel had booked them into the penthouse suite with 2 bedrooms. But as the evening wore on, they found themselves reluctant to separate. They shared wine on the balcony overlooking the city, their conversation flowing from professional to personal. I need to tell you something, Marcus said suddenly. About the inheritance. About why I really need to be married. Cassandra waited, sensing the importance of whatever he was about to reveal. My grandfather didn't just require marriage. He required marriage to someone who would challenge me, who would make me better than I am alone. Marcus's voice grew quiet. The lawyers think it's about social expectations, but I knew him. He wanted to force me to find someone who could see past the money and the business to who I really am. You think I'm that person? I know you are. Marcus reached for her hand. You've seen me, Cassandra. It's a real me, not the heir to Sterling. Enterprises. Somehow, impossibly, you seem to like what you see. I do like what I see. Cassandra's voice was soft. I like it very much. When Marcus kissed her this time, it was with the desperate hunger of a man who'd been denying himself something essential.
Ow.
Cassandra responded with equal fervor, her hands tangling in his hair as he pulled her closer. "We shouldn't," she whispered against his mouth. "Probably not." Marcus's hands skimmed down her sides. "But I'm past caring about what we should do." They made love slowly, tenderly, as if they had all the time in the world. Afterwards, Cassandra lay in Marcus's arms, listening to his heartbeat, and trying to ignore the voice in her head that whispered this couldn't last. "What happens when the year is over?" she asked quietly. Marcus's arms tightened around her. "I don't know, but I know I don't want to find out." Marcus thought, "I'm falling in love with you, Cassandra. I know it's not part of the contract. I know it complicates everything, but I can't help it." He turned to face her in the darkness. "Tell me you feel something too." "I feel everything," Cassandra whispered, "and it terrifies me." "Then we'll figure it out together." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." But even as she fell asleep in his arms, Cassandra couldn't shake the feeling that their carefully constructed arrangement was about to crumble, and she wasn't sure either of them was prepared for the consequences. The call from Thomas Gray, Marcus's lawyer, came on a Tuesday morning 3 weeks later. Cassandra was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard Marcus's sharp intake of breath from the living room. "What do you mean the inheritance is being contested?" Marcus's voice was tight with controlled anger. Cassandra moved closer, her heart sinking at the look on Marcus's face. "Vincent Blackwood filed a challenge yesterday. He claims our marriage is fraudulent and that I'm attempting to deceive the estate executors." Marcus listened for a moment, then said, "How long do we have?" When he hung up, Marcus sat heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. Cassandra approached cautiously. "How bad is it?" "Vincent somehow obtained evidence of our contract, is demanding a full investigation, including interviews with both of us under oath." Marcus looked up at her, his expression grim. "If they determine the marriage is fraudulent, I forfeit the inheritance entirely. What about the money for my father's treatment? You'll still receive it? It was guaranteed in our contract, regardless of the inheritance outcome." Marcus stood, pacing to the window. "But Cassandra, they'll tear apart every aspect of our relationship, our backgrounds, our interactions, everything. Maybe we should just tell them the truth. The truth is that I fell in love with my contract wife, and now I can't imagine my life without her." Marcus turned to face her. "But I don't think that's what the executors want to hear." Over the next few days, they prepared for the legal scrutiny. Lena helped them coordinate their stories, but Cassandra could see the strain wearing on Marcus. He was shorter with his staff, more distracted during meetings, and increasingly distant with her. "You're pulling away from me," Cassandra said one evening, as they sat in tense silence over dinner. "I'm trying to protect you. If this goes badly, your reputation could be damaged along with mine. Don't you think that should be my choice?" Marcus set down his fork. "Cassandra, be realistic. Vincent Blackwood is ruthless. He'll dig up every detail of your life, twist every moment we've shared into something sordid and calculated. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should end this now. I can transfer the money for your father's treatment immediately, and you can walk away before this becomes a public scandal." Cassandra felt as if he'd slapped her. "You want me to leave?" "I want to protect you." Marcus's voice was strained. "I never intended for you to get hurt because of my problems. And I never intended to fall in love with you, but here we are." Cassandra stood, her hands shaking. "You don't get to make this decision for me, Marcus. Not after everything we've shared, Cassandra. ... double quotes, no. You're scared and you're running. But don't pretend it's about protecting me." She headed toward the stairs. "It's about protecting yourself from the possibility that this might not work out." That night, Cassandra lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart breaking with each passing hour. She'd known this was temporary, had signed a contract that spelled out exactly how their arrangement would end. But somewhere along the way, she'd started believing in forever. The next morning, she found Marcus in his study, surrounded by legal documents and looking like he hadn't slept. "I've been thinking," he said without looking up, "about the inheritance, about what my grandfather really wanted, and He wanted me to find someone who would challenge me to be better than I am. Someone who would see past the money and the business to the man underneath. Marcus finally looked at her. He wanted me to find love, real love, not a convenient arrangement. Marcus ... I'm withdrawing my claim to the inheritance. Marcus's voice was steady, resolved. Vincent can have it. I don't want money that comes at the cost of our relationship. Cassandra stared at him in shock. You can't do that. It's your family's legacy. My family's legacy is what I make it, not what I inherit. Marcus stood, moving toward her. I'd rather build something new with you than cling to something old and empty. But the business, your grandfather's wishes, ... My grandfather's real wish was for me to find happiness, not have with you. Marcus reached for her hands. Cassandra, I love you. Not the contract version of you, not the convenient wife version, but you. The passionate archaeologist who can spot a forgery from across a room. The devoted daughter who would do anything to save her father. The brave woman who stood up to Vincent Blackwood without blinking. I love you too, Cassandra whispered, tears streaming down her face. But I can't let you give up everything for me. You're not taking anything from me. You're giving me everything that matters. Marcus pulled her close. Marry me again. Not for inheritance or contracts, but because you want to spend your life with me. What about the money? The business? I have enough money to last several lifetimes, with or without the inheritance. And as for the business, Marcus smiled. I've been thinking about making some changes. Maybe expanding into archaeological consulting, legitimate artifact authentication. I could use a partner with your expertise. Cassandra's heart soared. You want to go back to archaeology? I want to build a life that makes us both happy. If that means trading boardrooms for excavation sites, then that's what we'll do. Legal hearing 2 weeks later was anticlimactic. Marcus formally withdrew his claim to the inheritance, and Vincent's challenge became moot. The media attention was intense but brief, and within a month, the story had been replaced by fresher scandals. 6 months later, Cassandra stood in a small church in Vermont, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Her father, healthy and strong, after his successful treatment, walked her down the aisle toward Marcus, who waited with tears in his eyes. I, Cassandra Vale, take you, Marcus Sterling, to be my husband, not because of contracts or convenience, but because you are my heart, my partner, and my greatest adventure. I, Marcus Sterling, take you, Cassandra Vale, to be my wife. You challenged me to be better, to love deeper, and to find the courage to follow my heart instead of my head. Their first expedition as a married couple was to the Guatemalan site. Cassandra had dreamed of excavating. Sterling Archaeological Consultants had provided the funding, and they worked side by side under the jungle canopy, uncovering the secrets of an ancient civilization. Any regrets? Cassandra asked one evening as they sat around the campfire, dusty and tired, but happy. Only that it took me so long to realize that the greatest treasure wasn't gold or inheritance, Marcus said, pulling her close. It was finding someone who could show me that love was worth more than any contract, even if that someone was a struggling archaeologist who married you for money. Especially then. Marcus kissed her temple. You taught me that sometimes the most precious discoveries come from the most unexpected places. Under the star-filled sky, surrounded by the mysteries of the past and the promise of the future. Cassandra knew that their greatest adventure was just beginning. They had found something rarer than any artifact, more valuable than any inheritance. They had found each other.